Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Ken.
And my name is Richard.
And this is Don't Blame Jesus. Today we are talking about patient endurance. Rich, you were just praying and you said that this message is as much for us as it is for everyone else. That sounds awesome to me.
I can't remember what movie it is, but there's where I think it's De Niro and he's going, "Are you talking to me? You talking to me, right?" and this one could be like, "Are you preaching at me? Are you preaching at me?" And I can be doing that with a mirror in front of me because this is what I need. As we're going to go through it, in a sense, we're workshopping this.
Yeah.
This is as much a Bible study for us.
Yeah.
Everybody gets to eavesdrop as we work through.
Welcome to our private Bible study. Here we go.
So, all right. And so I was thinking, okay, so patient endurance. And I remembered when I was in Scotland, I was going through a kind of a tough time. I was a missionary over in Inverness, Scotland, with Youth for Christ, and somehow my money got hung up between here and between the U.S. and Scotland, and so I was going into a weekend with no money. Not that big of a deal, but for me it felt like kind of a big deal, and I had my kind of crummy Czechoslovakian made car, and then I needed gas for it. I had food, but I felt like I was, in a sense, I felt like I was down to like my last set of matches because I burn coal and sticks and whatever for like extra heat in the little apartment, and with that. I was listening to a sermon from Pastor Ken.
Mm-hmm. And who is that? You should probably clarify.
Pastor Ken Ortiz from Calvary Chapel, Spokane. Okay, and so he'd sent me over with a bunch of tapes, and so and he was talking about his life, and when he hit this verse that we're gonna look at here, it was about patient endurance, and then just like and just all this they went through a really lean time. Yeah. And I felt like I was going through a lean time. I feel like I'm going through a lean time right now. There's some really tough stuff and I know that, I know lots of people who are going through some really incredible, difficult times. So let me just go ahead and read this verse.
Okay. Let's go
and then just jump in there, get started.
Okay.
And it says, "I, John, your brother, your partner in suffering and in God's kingdom, and in the patient endurance to which Jesus calls us, I was exiled to the island of Patmos for preaching the word of God and for my testimony about Jesus." So why is he exiled there? Because he's doing the right thing. Right. And have you ever felt like I'm doing the right thing and everything's kind of like, this is not the way things are supposed to go. If you're doing all the right things, everything should go the right way. Right. But definitely sometimes it's not. And I'm thankful that he goes and does. Did you want to, I'll let you talk a little bit about Patmos and about John, and then I'll go from there.
Sure. Well, Rich had brought up that the island of Patmos is like now kind of considered like an island paradise, like a great place to live, a super fabulous, awesome.
Yes.
And like, I don't think that was in John's mind when he was there.
No.
I mean, it's better. It looks kind of like idyllic and beautiful, and it's like a temperate climate and all that. So at least he wasn't freezing. Like, it's better than going to Siberia or something, but he was still isolated on an island. And we talked about before that I think church history teaches that he was tempted to be murdered by boiling him in oil.
Yes.
And it didn't work. And so people are like, normally that works. So send him to Patmos. We don't know what else to do with him. And so it wasn't exactly it wasn't as uncomfortable of a location as it could have been, but it still wasn't. It wasn't like living in the Roman society.
Yeah, I was looking up a little bit on it on Wikipedia, and they were kind of describing it and saying, and because of the kind of the rocky, other worldly look to it, that's how he came up with his the revelation. And I'm like,
right.
no. And which of course reminds me, because music is a big thing in both of our lives, right?
Yeah.
And so a couple of lyrics. I'm just going to read this one. It's from the band Saint, and the song is called Island Prisoner.
Gotcha.
Speaking of John. Trust is where your strength lies when you're down. Life is what you're preaching in the truth you found. Sentenced alone, it's a fate worse than death. No man to talk to till it's your last breath. I don't know about that part. I mean, he doesn't say that he was out there absolutely alone. He was just exiled too.
Right.
And I think, obviously, when he wrote stuff, I think he got to hand it off to somebody. Right.
Well,
I'm not saying
someone
that,
must have taken it.
Yeah. So I'm not going to say that he never got a chance to talk to anybody ever again after that. Like I don't see anything for that. But anyway, so that's what the lyrics are, saying. It rhymes, right? Know that it's caused all your strife. Men want to snuff out your life. Things that you're saying come from within. No man can take it away. Few will believe the message you've learned. You're going into exile today. Island prisoner, you're no visitor. Island prisoner, you're no visitor. Visions you witnessed unveiled in a book. Why are they all coming true? Let me skip down here. Not in your wildest dreams could you have ever imagined the revelation you have seen, a warning for mankind to see. Will they ever awaken to the devastation that will be? But the big thing was, not in your wildest dreams could you have ever imagined the revelation you have seen.
Right.
Right. And because when you go through the book of Revelation, you're not going like, I just focused on these rocks and here it came. Right.
Right.
Like, no, that's not it.
These rocks are spooky.
Hey,
seven
exactly.
lampstands. No,
exactly.
that's not how it goes.
And speaking of seven, the beginning of 7 by the band Bloodgood starts out, God gave Jesus a revelation and the Lord sent his angel to John.
Yeah.
So God is directly speaking.
Yeah.
Well, I guess in that case, there were, kind of a path of how God spoke to him, but it's a direct message from God to John, to us. And as we're going through whatever our Patmos tough situation is, God wants to speak to us, and God wants to. He's still got a message.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And he wants to touch our hearts and work in our lives. And so
before you get real serious again, I just had a thought, and it was just funny to me.
Okay.
Imagine you're like, people had to have lived on Patmos, right? This is their home. And John comes and the Romans drop him off, and he's like, yeah, I'm a prisoner here. I'm exiled here forever. It's like, what's the matter with my home?
Yes.
It's so bad they got to send you here. I love it here. Like,
yes, exactly. I think so.
We got fishing. We got beaches. What else do you want?
Yeah, exactly. It definitely. It could be worse. It could be worse. It could be worse. And I think that was the thing. It could be worse. Gratitude list, I think, is hugely important, right? Because we look at that and go, that is beautiful. If I'm going to have to get exiled somewhere, that kind of looks like fun.
Fresh water might be a little difficult, but everything else should be pretty darn easy.
Exactly. And if you like fishing,
I mean, come on.
Well, wasn't he a fisherman already?
I believe so.
Yeah. So like.
He's probably old, and he's out there. It's like, no, put the net on the other side of the boat. I know how
to do this. Yeah. So when I was going through that time, for me personally, I was, like I said, down to my last matches and going, but I have matches, right? I'm not having to rub sticks together, right?
Right.
Once upon a time, people would have like, wow, you have matches? Like, that's the new tech. That's really super cool, seriously. Right? And my horrible Czechoslovakian-made car, right?
Yeah.
But one time I did 100 on the highway
in that car.
Yeah.
Holy cow, dude! That's living dangerously.
No, that was. Yeah, I was. I made a really dumb pass.
Oh my gosh!
Because I was just like, I just wanted to pass a BMW, and so I did. And so anyway, with that being said, But with that, if you go back in time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Princes didn't have cars, or cars that could do 100. I'm not even sure, like, at the beginning of the Indy 500, if you had cars that could do 100 miles an hour.
Right. I remember people saying in the dawn of like Henry Ford and those vehicles, people thinking that if you go over 35,
you're going to die.
You could die because that's just too fast for the human body. It's like, okay,
yes,
dude.
Yes. So there's a certain part where it's like, okay, so I have these matches that chemists back in the day would have, killed for something to have this tech. Mm-hmm. And I have a car, everybody looks down on, but princes would have looked up at, right, back in the day. And so there's a certain part, and I'm having to do this now because I'm trying to find a job, and all the jobs I'm finding, the pay looks just terrible, right? And I'm giving up what for what? And like, I'm not. Once upon a time, I believed you get a good job, right? And then you can, get, your life however you want, and you can afford your toys, that whatever that is that you wanted. And there's a certain part where like, this isn't going to pay for any toys. This is just going to all get eaten up in basic, living and taxes and whatever. But I had to think this through and go, you know what? Maybe I take it for granted that I live inside and I have a house that's, that's got food in the cupboards, and like, I should really enjoy that. That's like, there's something there. There's something there that I haven't been grateful for, that I need to slow down and be grateful that, as far as my needs, God's supplying my needs. God has been supplying my needs.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe not all my wants.
Right.
But, the end of the serenity prayer, so that we might be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. And so part of me has been chasing the supremely happy now. And every once in a while I have to okay, slow that down. It's coming. Yeah. But I'm reasonably happy. Yeah. I got good friends.
Yeah.
There's good stuff. There's good stuff that's going on in my life. And
it's true.
And so
man. I remember Dinah and I watched a Western the other day. Dude, the very idea of sleeping outside every day.
Oh no.
And then even like in the little towns that they went to, that is barely wood between you and the outdoors.
Yes.
Holes everywhere, leaky, windy, drafty. Like that is not any half of what we have. The whole, like you said, a king would like be thrilled with your car. He would be like totally thrilled with drywall and like it's dry and it's cool and it's not drafty.
Yes.
And central heat. Holy cow, dude, that's amazing.
Yes, so the bugs can't get in.
Yeah. Screens,
glass,
crazy.
Yeah, all these different things. Indoor plumbing.
Yeah.
Like that's. Indoor plumbing and electricity are still relatively new. And so we're blessed and we're spoiled. And so, I mean, there's a lot of first world problems that we deal with.
We're domesticated. And if we went into the wild, we would die.
Yes. But there's a lot of stuff to be thankful for. And I think that's, So, but I'm not saying that we don't go through tough stuff, because we do that as well. Should we just go on to our next verse?
Absolutely. May the Lord lead your hearts into a full understanding and expression of the love of God and the patient endurance that comes from Christ. Full understanding and expression of the love of God and the patient endurance that comes from Christ. Wow, they crammed a lot in there.
They did. Anything having to do with the love of God, or like that we would understand how God expresses his love to us. I think that's huge. And the patient endurance that comes from Christ. Patient endurance, how is that not like a muscle?
Yeah, indeed.
Like, how do you learn it or experience that or model it from Christ without having to go through it?
Well, it definitely is something that has to have some supernatural origin through the power of the Holy Spirit, because it definitely does not come naturally. If my phone doesn't charge right, I'm like, oh, you know what I mean?
My day's ruined.
I know.
My day's ruined. I start at 15%. What am I going to do?
And like, you know, it's like silly, you know, like, but the endurance, like so many things just get under your skin, and being patient and enduring it and understanding that it's to grow you, that is not natural.
No.
So you have to, it is a muscle. You have to grow it. You have to like give it some effort.
Right. Well, and point of view too, isn't it?
Yeah.
And going, okay, God wants to use this for my good somehow, some way. And let me just say this, and I know this to be true. Sometimes we go through these things so that we're better able to minister to others.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with people who are trying to lead or encourage me, and they're going, and when I was captain of the football team, and then when I won the winning touchdown for state, and then you know won this and won that and whatever, and everything is always been they've won everything. I don't know. I don't know what to do with that. I don't understand that. That doesn't look like that doesn't look like my life or reality or whatever, and I have nothing to hang my hat on.
Yeah.
When you go through it. When you feel it deeply, right?
Yeah.
When people are going through other stuff and they're feeling it deeply, maybe it's not exactly the same.
Yeah.
Okay. But, you know, it was close enough and say, okay, no, I don't understand exactly what you're going through. I see enough characteristics that I hurt with you. Okay. Rick Warren was saying, like, who better to minister to a family that has somebody in it who has cancer than a family who has someone in it who has cancer.
Right.
Right. And so, not that I wish cancer on anybody.
Of course
right?
not. No.
I don't. But I'll take my wife, for example. Okay. So she's got a pacemaker and she's in this club that she doesn't want to be in.
Right.
In the sense that how you get in the club is that you're a woman with a pacemaker. Okay. And so, and she ministers and encourages in that group. Right. And yeah, sometimes we just get placed in situations and we wouldn't have gone there on our own.
Yeah.
But that's where God wants to work in us and speak through us and teach us. And so, yeah. And the patience and endurance that comes from Christ, we have an example there to follow. We follow Christ.
Right.
All right. You want to lead us into James?
Yeah, absolutely. You want me to just start it?
Go for it.
Okay. This is James 1, 2 through 12. Dear brothers and sisters, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy. For you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow, for when your endurance is fully developed, you'll be perfect and complete, needing nothing. If you need wisdom, ask our generous God, and he will give it to you. He'll not rebuke you for asking. But when you ask him, be sure that your faith is in God alone. Do not waver, for a person with divided loyalty is as unsettled as a wave of the sea that is blown and tossed by the wind. Such people should not expect to receive anything from the Lord. Their loyalty is divided between God and the world, and they're unstable in everything they do.
Yeah.
Believers who are poor have something to boast about, for God has honored them. And those who are rich should boast that God has humbled them. They will fade away like a little flower in the field. The hot sun rises and the grass withers. The little flower droops and falls, and its beauty fades away. In the same way, the rich will fade away with all their achievements. God blesses those who patiently endure testing and temptation. Afterward, they'll receive the crown of life that God has promised to those who love him.
Okay.
Man, that is jam-packed.
There is.
We're going to have to take that apart in bite-sized chunks.
Let's break it down. All right. So, dear brothers and sisters, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy. You gotta think about
Not
it.
natural.
No, you gotta
Not
think it. You
natural.
gotta consider it. That consider and think go together, right? You have to think
Right.
about it in a different way.
Mhm.
If you look at it in a natural way, you're never gonna get there. All right. So you can be reasonably happy, and this is gonna sound weird. You can be reasonably happy when all sorts of other things are just absolutely falling apart.
Yeah. Well, you have an eternal hope that is not shakeable by circumstance.
Right. But whatever it is that is happening to you, that's not the totality of your life. That's not the totality of all your relationships. It's,
Right.
it whatever that is. I mean, it's a speed bump
Yeah.
that's along the way, but it doesn't negate everything else that God's doing that's positive in your life. So I think you have to look for joy, because joy is different than happiness.
Oh, definitely.
Joy comes from inside. An opportunity for great joy. I think John, as he's out there on the island of Patmos, he's getting to touch Jesus,
Yeah.
right? He's getting to experience the divine, like we long for, but he actually gets to experience it, which I think is pretty amazing. Because sometimes you're like, oh, God, can you just show me like a little bit of heaven? Can you show me just a little bit? And so he was getting to experience that even while he's put out to pasture.
Yeah. Boy, that is true. You think about all of the effective ministry that he had and how many people he undoubtedly led to Christ.
Right.
And how just full and impactful his ministry was. And then to just be completely sidelined into isolation has got to be like, okay, Lord, why?
Why? What?
Everything was going good.
Yeah.
Why have you let this happen to me? And he's like, let me tell you why.
Yeah.
Here you go. You're going to get this. You're going to do this for me.
Yeah.
That's rough. It's rough to be there as a follower of Christ, because we really are servants. We're not like making our own way. We're like, yes, Lord, would do what you say. And that's rough. That's rough for people to do.
It is counterintuitive. A lot of this is counterintuitive.
Well, it's counter to the flesh. That is for sure.
It is.
Sure.
And there's a certain part where that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, especially as we get down here later in in this, it's okay. It's okay. And maybe that's what you need to just know. What you're going through, God knows.
Yeah.
You're going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let it grow. And when your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect, complete, needing nothing. Wow. I can't even imagine that.
Well, when we just read that, it made me think of Paul when he said, I've learned to be content with everything and learned to be content with nothing. So I feel like that is his patient endurance. Like he's okay if he's got some dough, and he's okay if he doesn't. It's all okay. Whatever the Lord does, that's okay. Mm-hmm. That he got there. Mm-hmm. James, it seems like, is getting there. Mm-hmm. And
there's great gain in contentment.
Yes.
And not having to just constantly strive after the wind.
Yeah. Righteousness with contentment is great gain for sure.
Yeah.
That is so true.
All right. So if you need wisdom, ask our God, and he will give it to you. He will not rebuke you for asking. And I'm right now like, God, give me wisdom, because there's all sorts of stuff. I am in completely uncharted waters for me. Mm-hmm. And I went to the doctor today. And fortunately, the doctor gave me some good information on job search stuff.
Oh, sweet.
So which was handy, because like I'm trying to go through and do this. People are recommending stuff, and I go online and I look, and it doesn't seem like these things match and whatever. And I'm just like, and my computer's old and lame, and trying to go and do it, they're just like, it just.
Everything takes 10 times.
Oh, absolutely. When you have the spinning beach ball of death, right? Just like, oh my goodness. I try to get to the next page, and it times out, and this is horrible, right? Geez. And so, God, please give me wisdom. Please help me. Please help me. And I almost was saying, today as I'm thinking, what do I need? What do I need? What would encourage people as we get together and do this? It's like, hey, maybe we should do one on prayer. And I'm like going, weren't the last 4 or 5 ones we did, they were on prayer,
Yeah.
right? And we're praying here, and we're asking God for wisdom, and He gives it. And this is really important. And when He asks, be sure that your faith in God is in God alone, and do not waver. This whole thing with divided loyalties, and I've seen that if we flip-flop back and forth, that is miserable. That is miserable. It was a great sermon yesterday at church, and it had to do with when Peter goes out and he walks on the water, and Jesus is saying, "Call to him," and the whole thing about not being afraid to leave the boat behind to be with Jesus, right? And yeah, the tempting to go backwards, because maybe even though what I'm going into is so unfamiliar, to go back to the familiar, even if it's completely backwards and bad. And then this happens with people with recovery. Like they don't know what is the beyond, and so to go back to whatever the previous actions are.
Yeah, that happened in the wilderness wanderings with the
Absolutely.
Israelites.
Let's go back to Egypt. Let's go back to Egypt.
At least we had onions and leeks back there. Let's go back there.
Yeah. All of a sudden, the brain wants to sugarcoat everything. Like, oh yeah, like
it wasn't that bad. We were slaves, but we had onions.
Yeah. I mean, just, the whips and the hard work and all that. That was, that was all fine.
Yeah.
Like no. So there was a position having to do with janitorial, right? And the problem is you have to be willing to work any and all shifts. And I'm like going, well, that'll knock out church, and that'll knock out ministry.
Until you're like senior in the position and you can choose your own hours.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly. At which point, all of that stuff, I mean, I would give up everything to gain what?
Yeah.
I mean, to gain really nothing. And there's the loss there is way too big.
Right.
And so, the waffling is painful.
Yeah.
Don't waffle.
Yeah.
Look to Jesus and, keep on moving forward. And that was the problem with Peter. He quit looking at Jesus.
Yeah.
He was looking at the situation around, and,
well, I'm sure at first he had to be like, man, this is pretty great. I'm walking on the waves. Man, these are big waves.
These are big waves.
This wind is howling.
Yes.
Like, I don't know if I.
Yeah.
And then go.
Yeah. I was tempted, and maybe we'll do it sometime in the future. Is looking at the Book of Psalms. That's where I have to go sometimes. Where life is just like it's just beat me down, and I am in trouble. Yeah. I'm in trouble. I don't know how to move forward, and I got to go to Psalms. Because David has all those situations where he doesn't know what to do, and he's emotional, and he pours it all out, and God comes through and rescues. And I've been rescued I don't know how many times as I'm going through and I'm reading Psalms. And so sometimes that's where I got to go, or I got to go to Isaiah, just because God is so big and the nations are so small. And right now the nations seem so big, and I feel so small, and so it's all right. Their loyalty is divided between God and the world, and they're unstable in everything they do. Don't do that. Don't be unstable.
Yeah.
Focus on the right thing. What's the next thing that God wants you to do? Right? Focus on Him. All right. Go ahead. I'll let you go, and you can read the next part.
Okay. We'll read it again here. Believers who are poor have something to boast about, for God has honored them. And those who are rich should boast about or should boast that God has humbled them. They will fade away like a little flower in the field. The hot sun rises and the grass withers. The little flower droops and falls, and its beauty fades away. In the same way, the rich will fade away with all their achievements.
Now, that sounds really depressing.
It does. Well, I mean, yeah, but it's rough.
But there's a certain part for me now. I'm looking at it different. Because I think it has to do probably with trying to be supremely happy now, right? Rather than reasonable. Because we are fading.
Oh
Our lives are
man,
so
yeah,
short.
yeah.
And yeah, if we're worried about trying to leave some sort of super legacy or accomplish,
Hmm.
like if you're just so driven to accomplish absolutely everything, whatever,
Right.
um, you know, some of that is it's just not what God has planned for you. Period.
Well, but I mean, let's say you accomplish a lot. And by accomplishing, like most people would say, like, oh, I've built this great business and I've done this great
Most
thing. And
people,
most people, yeah, would say like, oh, I've done these things. What I'm getting at is all the things that they say are their great accomplishments are things that are in the world.
hmm
Like if someone truly is successful, I feel in this life, their achievements and their goals are things that will go with them into eternity. For
hmm
example, preaching the gospel, helping people find Christ, that is all that lasts.
hmm
And so, like, a lot of times, you know, I would say, like, this portion of the passage is kind of like a reminder that unless you use your riches
hmm
to invest in the kingdom, ultimately you're going to lose them.
hmm
And so it is like, as someone who is not saying that's me, I am far from that. But if someone was rich in this world, in this life, they have the opportunity to take those riches that are earthly, fading,
hmm
and invest them in the kingdom to bring people to Christ, and then they get to keep that forever
hmm
as a work that pleases God and not as some kind of work that glorifies themselves. But it all comes down to attitude. Like,
hmm
why did you do it?
hmm
Why? I mean, if someone has all the money in the world and they give it all, they give their body to be burned and all that kind of stuff, and they don't have love, they're doing it for some selfish reason,
Right.
that profits nothing.
Exactly.
So it's so important that I
Right.
think that God can humble a rich person by letting them give away what he's entrusted to them.
hmm I think too with this part with the flower of the field that fades away.
Mhm.
Um, we're talking about legacy. We're talking about like whatever accomplishments and achieve. And
Mhm.
I'm not sure that most people accomplish a whole lot as far
Mhm.
as like at the end of the life that
Mhm.
they're going to get a plaque
Right.
somewhere of like because they founded X, Y, and Z and they
Right.
whatever it is. And so if we're chasing after things that aren't worth anything,
Right.
right? That's a huge amount of just waste.
Right.
Um, you and I both like cars. Okay,
Yeah.
we always have. There's some really cool ones out there, and it was fun that I got to drive Porsches back in the day when I was working at Gateway Volkswagen Porsche
Mhm.
Audi. Right. So with that being said, okay, with how much I was making, let's say at my janitorial job,
Mm.
right?
Right.
How many hours would I have to work to be able to afford one of those?
All of them.
All of them. Like,
Yeah.
so be completely a slave to earning enough money to be able to afford one thing.
And that one thing
Doesn't matter.
in 20 years is probably in the junkyard.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so all of that for what? For what fades? For all? I mean, it doesn't make any sense
Yeah.
to waste all of our energy and just to realize that we're not going to last forever.
Yeah.
We're just not.
Mm-mm.
And that's okay.
Thank goodness.
Yeah,
Honestly,
absolutely. Yes.
everything's starting to hurt, dude. I don't want to last forever like this. This is kind of getting rough.
It is. It is. And so, and I'm okay with that. I don't have to accomplish like Alexander the Great, where I have to conquer
no.
the whole
What did he
known world.
do? His whole kingdom was divided and squandered.
Yeah.
Like, so great.
Yeah. Exactly.
You won the game. Your pieces were scraped off the board and you're in eternity, and great.
Yeah.
Great.
So, yeah, there's so much just energy wasted in trying to build kingdoms and empires. And rather than, about what's this one up here we were talking about, understanding the expression of the love of God.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd much rather understand and express that and experience the love of God
Mm-hmm.
and see what happens in that. That's way more exciting.
Yeah.
It's just like it's a foretaste of glory divine, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Indeed.
all right. You want to finish this out?
Sure. This is verse 12. God blesses those who patiently endure testing and temptation. Afterward, they will receive the crown of life that God has promised to those who love him.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So there's a promise there. Yeah. And I know people who they're struggling right now with, needing to be patient. Oh, good golly. Patience kind of stinks in that it's the waiting. It's the waiting. And if you can use the waiting time in some sort of positive way and not freak out and not run back to Egypt again.
Right.
Or, start waffling back and forth and wavering and being unstable. Going, God's brought me through X, Y, and Z. I'm sure he can bring me through A, B, C.
Yeah.
And he's going to do it. And there's positive things to be found in the midst of that.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things I'm in a similar position right now where I don't have enough work, and trying to freelance and trying to do this and trying to do that. I've been here before, and the last time I was here, God provided. Mm-hmm. It took like a year and a half, and it was hard. Mm-hmm. And this time has taken this about the same. It's been really tough. Mm-hmm. It's like, do we have to do this again? Did I not learn last time?
Yeah.
But I feel like this time, I'm like, okay, I know God has got me. I need to listen. Like, what are you trying to say, Lord? Let me hear it. Then let me move on, because I want to get out of this season. I don't want to be in the desert forever.
Great.
I want to get out. I want to get going back to being useful and being, just like in your will. And so I think that in a way, like you said before, someone who's been through something can minister to someone who's going through it. I'm almost ministering to myself to some degree, because remember, we've done this before. Mm-hmm. It is rough.
Sometimes you got to preach to yourself.
But God delivered, and he's going to deliver. Just wait. Mm-hmm. Man, the waiting is hard. Mm-hmm. Waiting is hard.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. But we don't have to do it alone. Nobody says you have to wait, do all the waiting and in endurance, all that. You have to endure it all by yourself.
On the island of Patmos, all by yourself.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily sure, because it says penal colony.
Right.
Right? And a colony isn't a colony of one.
Well, right, but if it's a penal colony, then you're like living with Roman guards, centurions. I bet they're thrilled to be there.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
But it was funny with Paul, because when he got chained to guards, they come to Christ, because Yeah.
It's like if you were the I don't know, magistrate or whoever it is that handles who goes where, like you're the commander. It's like, well, which soldier do I want to lose to Jesus now? I'm going to send him. Whoever I send in there is going to come back different. They're not going to be.
Yeah.
That's funny.
It is. All right. Well, that was all good. And and if you guys want to help with our podcast, what was it you were saying that we could use to help with the levels, with the audio levels? You were saying a Tascam something.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to help. We are trying new microphones, obviously, and we're hooking them up directly into the camera. One of the problems that we had before was that we'd have to drive the microphones with phantom power, and it drained the battery on the camera. These don't use phantom power, so that's a help. But I don't think we need anything else. I'm going to be content.
Right. Okay.
Until God provides, we're going to be content.
Okay.
But I hope it sounds good.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you're seeing this,
we keep on trying new things.
Yeah. If you're seeing this, it probably worked. So that's good.
Good.
So there you go.
All right.
Awesome. Well, hey, we are blessed to be able to do this. We hope that we're ministering to you. If you have any comments or questions or anything that you'd like to see us cover in the future, please let us know in the comments below. We would love that. If you want to see us grow, easiest way to do that is subscribe to the channel. Push the thumbs up button so that Google and YouTube know that other people should see this. And then, comment, because engagement is good.
And you can tell your friends.
Absolutely. Share it. If there's someone that you think, oh man, that they would like to hear that, send it to them. We'd appreciate that.
Sounds good.
Doesn't cost anything. So go ahead.
Nope.
Maybe just your friendship if you really make them mad. I don't know. I mean, it could happen. We don't want that to happen. But
share it with people that you don't mind losing.
Yeah, indeed. Well, as we always say, if you heard us say anything stupid, remember, don't blame Jesus. That was our fault.
Yes.
And we will see you on the next episode.